Welcome to the Old Pros Presents. Today we are having a conversation with a true old pro. I am so pleased to present to you Brett Halsey, a gentleman who has been a star, internationally known, and we will get into some of the films and TV shows that Brett has done. Brett, tell me a little bit about your background in less than 10,000 words, okay?
Well, I started my career in my late teens under contract at Universal International Pictures. They had a school, and back in those days, all the studios had a school, and you auditioned and got into these schools. Some of my classmates who went on to have big careers were Clint Eastwood, of course, Barbara Rush, who was an old pro. I can go on and on. David, I should have written all these names down. Anyway, there were a number of actors in our class who went on to have really good careers. I was later under contract to 20th Century Fox, and the head of casting there said that our group at Universal was really unusual in the business because he said in these classes, if 1 out of 100 even stays in the business, it's a successful class. In our class, he said 80% of the pupils made it, had good careers in the business. So, in between Universal and Fox, I did a number of teenage films. Hot Rod Rumble and many films like that. High School Hellcats.
Yeah, I went into Wikipedia and tracked down your list. It goes on and on for a good solid half-page, triple-columned. So you've done a lot.
I've been in 101 films, something like 400 television shows, plus some theater, professional theater.
Well, now I've seen things about the spaghetti westerns and the Euro spy films. What did you do in theater?
I did a couple plays, one with Miriam Hopkins, who was a big star in the 30s and 40s, I guess. Interesting experience. I won't go into that.
No, we'll talk about that later, maybe.
Yeah. And I did a play at La Jolla Playhouse, directed by Norman Lloyd, who is one of the most famous theater people alive. Barely alive, I guess, because Norman, I think, just celebrated his 102nd birthday, but one of the great icons of theater. And yeah, that was my professional theater, yeah.
That's interesting, the age thing, because I'm thinking now you were in the same class with Eastwood and Barbara Rush, and these are all people who are now up in years and for the most part still doing. Barbara performed here up until a couple of years ago, and she was on stage for a Woman of Letters and several other items that she did for us.
Yeah, Barbara's had a marvelous career and a delightful person. We're really happy. We worked in a film, I think it was called All I Desire, where we were youngsters in the film, directed by Douglas Sirk. I come up with these names that many people today don't remember, but who were important in their day. It was a thrill for me to be working with people I watched when I was coming. Mary Astor, for example. Mary Astor was a great star, and she played my mother in a film, and that was a real thrill. Roderick Crawford.
You did Revenge of the Fly, and that was with Vincent Price.
Return
of the Fly.
Vincent Price, what a wonderful actor. And he's a friend, he's generous. you work with some actors who, when they're working with the younger people like myself who are learning, give, help, encourage you to be better. Then there's the actors you work with who are just selfish, closed. In it just, when I say in it just for themselves, I mean acting for themselves, not sharing their talent. Sharing is so much, it's fun for one thing. When you get two actors working together and there's a rhythm. And I saw that in a movie, what was it? Two British actors who just beautiful, and just to watch them, it's like music, they're playing together.
That is the excitement, whether it happens in film or on theater, the chemistry, and it just lifts everything up.
Yeah, yeah. It makes being a performer worth being a performer, because at the end of the day or end of the scene, when you walk out and you say, "Oh boy, that was great." Like, of course, it can happen the other way around. Well, I have an example, and this is it with the same actor, Broderick Crawford. First time I worked with him was in, he's an Academy Award winner and great actor, but he was also a big drunk at some point in his life. First time I worked with him was in a show called Highway Patrol, where he played this cop. And I was all excited, I'm going to be working with this Academy Award winner. Well, he came in and he was stumbling in. And he comes up to me to our scene, he puts his hand on my shoulders, and he says, "Listen, kid, don't listen to what I say, it's just when I stop, you start."
That's sort of a riff on Spencer Tracy's, just, learn the lines and don't bump into the furniture.
Well, then, years later, we worked together again, after he was sober. And it was in a TV series starring two actors who were very important in their own minds. And these two actors, before we were starting the scene, they got together and we were discussing with the director and, we have to do this and do this. And I'm watching Broderick Crawford, and he's sitting there just going, like he's half asleep. And they go on and on and on, and Crawford's. So finally, these two young geniuses decided the scene was ready to shoot. And we got up, the four of us were in the scene. And Crawford killed from this sleepy guy, all of a sudden, this giant came out. And you no more looked at those two than it was just such a great experience of watching. It was one of the things that now I'm reminded that I learned is conserve your energy. Working in film, especially as you remember when we worked in the Bees, you work all day, long hours, 12-hour days, which is the norm. And you have to be just as fresh in the 12th hour as you were in the first hour, otherwise you look like... So conserve your energy, right?
Absolutely. I remember some of those long nights when, not only were we tired, but we were also knowing that we just couldn't afford to waste film because we were on such tight budgets that if we weren't ready to do it right there and get it on the first take, they weren't happy with us.
And they would also use, if you remember, what they called short ends.
Oh, yes.
Short ends are... They load film into canisters, about to speak, and then they'd shoot the roll, and if they didn't shoot all the roll, they'd put it away. Well, you'd have ends of all these rolls, they call them short ends, and they'd somehow splice them together and use them to film. Well, this really takes me back.
It was just taking me back too, because I remember on some of the things, I finally learned how to do negative cutting because we were B- movies, we were such tight budgets. And so I had to do negative cutting and all fun stuff.
You reminded me of something else recently. One of my sons is one of the top editors in Hollywood today. And he was telling me that in film school, now all the great universities have film schools, he says that you can graduate from film school today and never touch a piece of film. They don't use film anymore.
True. It reminds me of a quote Marilyn Monroe had. My mother had a very responsible job. She was a negative cutter. And I was thinking, that's why she went nuts. Because it was basically like monkey work, chimpanzee work, where you put it in this little synchronizer and you had 3 strips going, and it was like cut and paste, but it was the second step in between, and it drive you crazy.
Well, I remember early on in my career, I did a couple films where they used the old Technicolor 3-strip cameras.
Oh, yeah.
Now these cameras, whereas later on Technicolor is on one piece of film, but in the early days they had 3 rolls of film going at the same time, different colors. The cameras were enormous. They were like, I don't know, bigger than this sofa 3 or 4 times, and to move them, like today you can pick up that camera and walk around with. I don't know how heavy they were, but they were gigantic, these cameras. You remember those?
Well, most of what we did was with 16mm Bolex.
Yeah. Well, the 3-stripe cameras didn't last very long. They're just too difficult to work with. And imagine editing 3 different colors of film.
Oh, God. Frightening. You spent some time over in Europe.
Many years. I made my first film in Italy in 1962, and my last film in Italy in 1991. So I worked in many films: Italy, France, Germany, Austria, England. I was induced into the Spaghetti Western Hall of Fame.
And I also, in doing a little research, you won a Golden Globe.
Yes, I have a gold. I should have brought it.
Oh, where do you keep it?
It's in a bookcase, amongst some other things. It's it's nice to have that.
Well, it's so much fun talking about the film, but going to our time together here at Laguna Woods, I remember where our first show we worked on together was See How They Run.
Yeah, that was fun.
And I think I have to thank you for having the opportunity to be in that show in the first place. I think you convinced the director I was the right person for the part.
Who directed that?
John Perrick, who is another old pro, who has done a tremendous amount of, especially TV.
John did a lot of TV, and he's done a lot for the old pros. I think he's one of the foundational members.
Absolutely, I understand he came in and he really pushed for, David Deering had mentioned that he and John got together and really started pushing for productions on stage.
Yeah, and he did some really, really good work.
Well, I think we're going to have to wrap up, but speaking of stage, we will see the day when the COVID pandemic is over and we will be back on stage, and what we want to do is to make opportunities for people who have not had a chance to meet the old pros to come and meet us, and we would like to have auditions coming up soon for shows that we are planning to do. If you have ever acted, if you have a lot of experience, or if you have never acted but always wanted to give it a try, we want you to come to auditions, and we will be getting that out in the Globe and on Channel 6 and any other place we can to let you know when those opportunities will be. And maybe we'll be lucky enough to have you, Brett, direct one of those productions.
I'm planning to. Can you see that? This is the program from Arsenic and Old Waste. I was really happy with this. I directed this show. Wonderful actors. It was a great experience, and importantly, for a club, we did really good business. We made some money.
That keeps us going.
But I'm really, really proud of this, and as old pros, we all should be.
Thank you, Brett.
Thank you.
Hi again. I am about to interview one of my really good friends, Artie Rosenstein, who I met in my very first play here in Laguna Woods. It was
Curious Savage.
Great fun. He's a great guy to work with. And Artie, how long have you been here in Laguna Woods?
It's going on 17 years.
17 years. Have you been interested in the theater the whole time you've been here?
No.
I understand your wife has been, though.
My wife actually was one of the reasons why I got into the theater, because she was active with the old pros, and I had no particular interest, but I helped her as an usher, as a gopher, as a bartender, to help the organization. And there was a show back in 2008, I believe, called Aquarius to Woodstock. And David Deering twisted my arm to be in a skit with him, which was kind of a Cheech and Chong thing, and we improvised it. Every performance was different, and I had fun. And so about a year and a half later, I tried out for One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
Uh-huh.
And I got cast, and I had one line, which I can't repeat for TV6, I don't think. Can I?
Probably not, if you think not.
Okay. But it was a lot of fun, and I enjoyed it, and it flowed from there.
And so, is Carol still active? Your wife's name is Carol David, by the way.
Yes. No, she's not.
But she was when I was working too, and she is one of the best backstage people you
She
would
is.
ever want to have work in a play with you.
Well, she's pretty nice to live with,
So
too.
you-
But anyway.
That's very true. So, have you decided to do any acting classes and hone your skill?
I certainly did, and that was part of the process. And I got to give a thanks to Jeannie Sander, who really gave me a theoretical basis for understanding the process of acting and being on stage.
And Jeannie did have classes when she lived here in Laguna Woods, and the old pros will be doing some classes very similar to that in the future, so that we hope a lot of people will take advantage if they have that little interest in putting themselves out on the stage. But I understand now you're doing a very serious workshop.
Yeah, we're doing a monologue workshop, and the particular monologues that I'm working with are very challenging, and the more challenging, the better.
That's terrific, and I understand you're doing a great job with them. Carol told me that she was just blown away when she watched you do it. What are your plans for the future? You gonna continue?
Oh yeah, yeah, as long as I can. I mean, I really enjoy it, and I enjoy the challenge of it, and I enjoy working with people, and that's one of the things that's a little lacking now, you know, with the pandemic. But hopefully, we're looking, you know, there's light at the end of the tunnel. So.
We think we might actually be on stage again one day, right?
Oh, I think we will.
Of
The
course
question
we
is
will.
how soon. But
You can't stop us, right?
absolutely.
And what has been your favorite play?
Well, the favorite thing that I did, and I think honestly it was the best thing that I've done, is a scene from The Merchant of Venice, and I got to play Shylock. And it's that famous scene, why he wants a pound of flesh, to bake fish withal, and does, if you prick us as a Jew, do we not bleed? If you tickle us, do we not laugh? It's a great scene, and thanks to Greg Sierra.
Oh, Greg Sierra. Oh, tell me, what was it like to work with him? Tell me about him.
Well, aside from being a terrific actor, and he's mostly known for his work on TV in Barney Miller, but he was a Shakespearean actor. And he coached me up in that role. I mean, you know, you talk about that in athletics, being coached up. He coached me up. And when I first did that scene, it was all anger, and there was no pacing to it. So, wait a minute, ups and downs and emphasize. Anyway, I was very happy with what I did there, and thank you, Greg. And sadly, he recently passed, but he was a hell of a guy.
Yes, he just passed very recently, and he was a resident of Laguna Woods.
He was.
For the many
And he was
years
an
of
actor
the
for
end of
the
his
Old
life.
Pros.
Yes, he was. Yeah, I understand he performed in See How They Run here. in
Yeah,
Laguna
that was
Woods.
one of the best shows that the Old Pros have done since I've been here.
You know, now that you mentioned Shakespeare,
Mm-hmm.
we hope that the Old Pros will again be able to put Shakespeare on either on the stage or on the patio, as we have done in the last few years. You've done a couple of those on the patio scenes too, haven't you?
Oh, I sure have. That was where I did the Shylock, but I also got to play King Lear, which was another one that's a privilege as an actor to do Shakespeare, and I guess as an older actor, it's a nice thing where you only have to learn one scene instead of an entire show.
That's for sure. I think a lot of us are saying, I don't think I can memorize anymore. But with Shakespeare on the patio, it's been David Deering who has been spearheading that performance.
Mm-hmm.
And hopefully David will also be doing a Shakespeare class with some practice scenes from Shakespeare. So I have a feeling we may have to put on 2 or 3 of those classes. A bunch of us will be interested.
Something to look forward to.
You know, talking about not wanting to memorize anymore, Carol Shalin is going to put on a class which we're going to call Reader's Theater, and so that you can learn how to take a script and read it and look exactly like you're acting it, because she will teach you how to do that, and that will be a fun experience.
Well, I've had the pleasure and privilege of working with Carol, both in shows and being directed by her, so I know that will be an excellent class, and I recommend it to anybody who's watching this particular show.
And I hopefully will also be doing some classes in improvisation.
Ooh.
Would you find that fun?
I guess I'm less comfortable with that,
Uh-huh.
but
So you'll be in the Shakespeare class and in the radio theater class. Okay, we'll see you in class.